Hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Christine, and this is our presentation on conflict resolution for the class interpersonal processes. Within our group, we have Christine, Rachel, Autumn, and Michael.
So, we are about to discuss the role play scenario that Group 2 made. The discussion will include Rachel and Christine.
And within the role play, we have a social worker who utilizes two methods of conflict resolution. That would be open-ended questions and common ground. That video of the role play includes Autumn as the social worker and Michael as the client.
So, attention to diversity was paid during this video to gender because Autumn as the social worker is female and Michael as the client was male. And traditional gender roles tend to discourage males from seeking help. This could possibly be due to a decreased likelihood in males in their support system referring them to professional help because it might be seen as vulnerable. So the social worker creates a safe space for the client to be vulnerable in. And despite the difference in gender, race, and experience between the client and the social worker, Autumn was still able to connect with Michael and was able to provide him with appropriate treatment.
Oppression is utilizing the differences above or in the last slide in order to suppress or crush an individual. That could include race, sexual orientation, gender. We can see societal oppression in the fact that addiction is very stigmatized. Lloyd emphasized that stigma obscures our view of an individual so that we see that individual as a problem and instead use the addiction as their identity instead of seeing them as a person. We could see some internalized depression within our client. For example, he had little to no self-esteem. He was very doubtful of himself, saying that he can't do this, that treatment hasn't worked in the past. We could see his outward fear of failure as he verbalized that, and the criticism of the treatment that he's received in the past, and also the treatment that was being presented to him in various forms. Within our role play, the client mentions that he appreciated that the social worker did not judge him, which opened up a safe space for him to then speak and look forward to treatment instead of viewing it as a punishment.
So, the first method that was utilized within the role play scenario was the common ground method. So, Autumn used the common ground method when the individual was expressing resistance to treatment. Um, she used reflecting to make sure that her client knew that she understood him and to make sure that she had a thorough understanding of what her client was saying to her. She reflected back to Michael, so what I hear you say is that you use the drugs as an escape from reality and to make you feel better. And when Michael answered yes, she knew she could move on and provide him with appropriate treatment because she understood his problem. And the social worker also uses appropriate self disclosure during the role play to create common ground with her client. So Autumn expresses to Michael that she is also in recovery, and that creates a bond and a trust that he can move forward and seek treatment from Autumn.
How the technique was used, we used appropriate self-disclosure. The worker was able to relate to the client. Michael, the client, was able to express his appreciation of the social worker's understanding. When she reflects back what she hears and he feels truly understood, they're able to move forward with treatment and in the professional relationship that they were able to obtain. The client feels that family members may not be able to understand because they do not have substances or substance abuse disorders, and they have not been through similar experiences. Through the social worker truly hearing what the client was saying, they're able to feel understood. The worker and the client have similar backgrounds, which encourage a trusting and therapeutic relationship. And even if the social worker had not had the same or similar background to the client, utilizing common ground makes the client feel heard and understood.
So the second method that was utilized within the role play was the use of open-ended questions. So the intake social worker used open-ended questions to invoke the client's emotions and experiences, so to get a more thorough understanding of where he was coming from and what he needed in a treatment. Some examples of open-ended questions that Autumn used during the role play are, why do you feel that you use drugs? So he was expressing what members of his family thought the reason for his drug use was, rather than what his own experience was. And so she asks this question to get his perspective on his situation. She also uses, how does that make you feel, which throughout the role play, which caused her to be able to get a more thorough understanding of her client's issues and what they would need in treatment.
And how the technique was used. Utilizing open-ended questions, we were allowing the worker to be engaged with the client while the client has the opportunity to elaborate on their thoughts, feelings, and goals. Our social worker was able to ask the client what he believed that he was there for, what his goals were, and as we can see in the following quote, being asked about your hopes and concerns is empowering. Being told what your problem is and what you need to do is disempowering. And utilizing open-ended questions, the worker is able to create an attainable goal with the client that they would be able to stick with because they have come up with it as well. In asking open-ended questions, the worker is also able to assist the client to expand upon the general statements that they may use. Michael was able to truly verbalize his experiences and emotions supporting that experience, therefore creating open communication. They're exploring a deeper issue and connecting the feelings at hand to that issue in order to find triggers and in order to find the appropriate treatment for the client in this case. The stage that was reached by our group in the end was the community stage. We were able to navigate through our introductions. We were very polite, and we all seemed to have some anxiety regarding the project and meetings. This form of online schooling is very different from what a lot of us were used to, and so that caused a little bit of anxiety as well. We then navigated to the chaos and emptying stage. We felt that it was safe to disagree with one another. Each member was assertive in their role. They knew what their role was and played it well. We were able to remain present and aware despite all of the anxiety that we were feeling at that time, and the differences in opinions and execution of those opinions became valued. We were then able to move to the community stage, where every member had an input and they were able to express that without being feared of judgment. And every group member also contributed to the goal of creating the presentation. Each member also had the ability to be seen, heard, and known, which, as we read in our week 1 reading with Beryl, that is very important, and that's what every member really needs to feel in order to have a true community group. And then we navigate to our references, and we thank you for looking at our presentation and for taking the time to look at Group 2's work.
Thank you.